Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. Welcome to Practical Preparedness, 5 steps to stay alive and thrive. Today we're doing step 1. Now, this involves a series of questions and a line items of gear and other questions in the back end of this. So bear with me. This is not just simply like one thing or one tip that I'm going to give you. This is a medley or a combination of ideology. And I'm going to do this in just layman's terms, just like if you just kind of walked right into this whole field of preparedness for the first time. And so this is actually helpful for me as well to get a new, fresh perspective on preparation. So I really do enjoy this. So the question that I first came up with step 1 is, what stuff do you carry on your person? Just what do you have on you? What kind of stuff do you need to have on you? What are your immediate capabilities? Do you have clothing that's suitable for your climate? Are your tools appropriate for your task? And this is kind of something that I've noticed over time is when I try to carry, let's say that I need a multi-tool, but when I go full size with my multi-tool, especially if I don't have a proper belt or carry system, I typically just don't carry it. Let's be honest. And so, I'm going to give my recommendations of just what works for me and some of my friends, and just as a kind of a baseline guideline, just kind of just a generic way of looking at some parameters of what's realistic and practical. So when it comes to multi-tools, I really do try to stay around 4 ounces or less, which typically is a medium to small size multi-tool, and that may not fit your needs. But for me and my lifestyle, I don't typically even need a multi-tool. So it's something that if you do need it, you probably want to carry a full-size multi-tool and probably a belt sheath, and so that your belt can hold it instead of putting it in your pockets. The cutting tool is next. This is something that really varies depending on your taste and what kind of clothing as well that can support this particular blade. Some people go with a fixed blade and some others go with a folding blade. Some do both. I typically don't carry a fixed blade, even though I have a lot of small blades that could be used for everyday type of carry. I typically carry several, 2 to 3 folding blades. One, usually a fully serrated for self-defense uses, and I typically like to keep that between 2 to 3 ounces at most. And then I go to a utilitarian blade, and typically I have more of a full size that's between 2 to 3 ounces, which is on my upper end of weight. And I also have a much smaller knife just for very small tasks, or if I need to hand off a knife to someone, especially someone that might be a lot more inexperienced with knives, a much smaller blade between 1 to 2 ounces. And those kind of weight and smaller sizes really lend toward easier carry all through the day. Now, the next tool would be personal protection tools. Now, it could be a series of tools, which we'll talk about in a little bit later, how you'd want to maybe, put this together. But in terms of like your firearm, the same thing goes into effect. The heavier it is, the more likely you're not going to carry it. And so what is really practical, if it's a pocket gun, then carry a pocket gun. If it's something that you can put on your ankle, that's fine too. But it's a lot better to be just upfront about things and say, yeah, this is not going to work. And instead of trying to force the issue for a few weeks, you may even get a few months, and then all of a sudden you just don't carry anymore. What about communication tools? Obviously, people don't typically walk around with walkie-talkies and AM and FM radios or shortwave radios typically. But they definitely do walk around like you and I probably do with cell phones. And with the advent of smartphones and tablets and things, you have a whole bunch of stuff there that can enable you to communicate. And then the next would be your type of organizer. It could be a pocket organizer to keep some of this stuff and your gear in. It could be, they even have like wallet organizers, which is kind of like a hybrid of a pocket organizer and a wallet. And then for ladies, it could be a handbag or purse or however you carry it. Some females now don't even do those anymore. They just stick with a traditional wallet like guys. So there's a lot of different preferences there. This is a question that it gets brought up sometimes, especially in the forums. But if you're new to all this, and if you're not a smoker, then do you have a means to make fire? It's something that we just don't really think about, us non-smokers. I don't smoke, but I try to carry a means of fire. And this is because this is just your everyday carry, what you have on yourself. This the stuff on your person. You don't need to have like 2 and 3 different redundancies. You're not making a survival kit here. You're not building some kind of wilderness pack. And you're not planning on being out in the environment for weeks at a time. We're just talking about simply, do you have the means to put together, a plan, or at least with different implements, and to create a combustion, to have a fire, if you will. And so it's just that simple. And if you do, you do. If you don't, then maybe just a mini Bic lighter could go that route to fulfill that need. And some of this doesn't require a lot of stuff. A means to record data manually. And this is outside of your smart devices. So, simply put, you can get very compact pens. Some people like pencil still, but you can get some very compact pens and notepads. And there you go right there. And so it may not be necessary for everyone to carry a pen and paper, but it can really go in handy if you need to jot down some information really quick, or you have to draw a quick map, or there's just really valuable information that you just don't believe that you can remember 20 minutes from now. So just keep that in the back of your mind. At the very minimum, just a folded up piece of paper, and a very compact pen can do the job. Do you carry a light source, and maybe even a backup light source with maybe a spare battery or two? This is important as well. It doesn't have to be very large at all. I still default back to what I would say for me personally and some of my friends, that the golden standard for everyday carry type of lights, it could be the photon keychain light. That's the one that I would say to be the smallest. And then the one that actually has the rear clicky would be the Streamlight MicroStream. I just can't get enough of that. They're in the 3rd generation right now. They're putting out like 45 lumens for 2.5 hours. You can step it up to a Streamlight Stylus Pro. I really like that. It's just a little over 5 inches long. Takes 2 AAA batteries, lasts about 6.5 hours, and now they're in the 3rd generation as well at 90 lumens. Now it doesn't have a full 90 lumens for the 6.5 hours. It tapers off just like all lights pretty much do, but it's still a very capable light. And in an emergency, you could get quite a bit of run out of that if you conserve it over time. That could last you over a week. If you did a few, maybe a few minutes here, a few minutes there, or, each night in use, you could definitely also use that for other things we'll talk about, such as signaling. Now, what about bandanas or handkerchiefs? This is something that, in particular, guys, typically carry more than females. But, females should have a means also. A bandana or something like that, a handkerchief. There's nothing wrong with that as well. In fact, females probably do more of the scarf type of handkerchiefs, and I don't know how they call it specifically, but they have different names. More like a scarf type of wrap versus maybe a bandana type for guys. But whatever it is that you call it, do you have one of those? Those things can do so much. An improvised bandage, it could be improvised pre-filter for filtering water. It could be a fire tender. It goes on and on. And of course, if it's brightly colored, it could be used as a signaling device. Do you have any types of means of repair on your body? You may not really need a lot of this. You may not need to walk around with a full roll of duct tape or Gorilla Tape, by no means. But do you have maybe a little strip of it? Maybe even like 3 inches of it or 6 inches or whatever you think you need. And you can fold it up over an old credit card and put it in your wallet and maybe have a little bit of cording as well. Maybe the cording is on your keychain. Maybe it's wrapped around part of your belt. Maybe it's an enhanced type of cording, maybe parachute cord that you replaced in the place of maybe your old shoelaces, and you upgraded those. You have some means to make things with cording or to use it for other types of other reasons. What about, other types of protection to the body? It could be lip balm, sunscreen. It could be sunglasses. Sunglasses is a real big one that people just, I see people wear them a lot these days, but they get the cheapy throwaways that really don't have good quality lens, and then they wonder why they have eye fatigue. A good quality Ray-Ban, especially Oakley's and Bollé, and there's a whole host of good companies out there. You don't need me to tell you. These are some things that are considered an investment. Yes, $50, $100 to $200 is a lot of money, no doubt about it. And I'm very careful with my money as well. But in the end, these glasses that are usually cost more, they typically last longer because they're better built. And they sometimes even have good warranties that if they fail in a certain period of time, they'll be repaired. So this is something to definitely could be considering, maybe making that kind of investment. I know people who have had their Oakleys for over 3-4 years, some of even 5 years. And so if you can get a 3 to 5 year stint out of a good $100 to $150 dollar pair of sunglasses, and you divide that per year, it isn't that much when you consider the protection for your eyes. Especially when you consider some of the upper brands and upper quality glasses have a nice level of impact resistance. And that's what I would look for, besides the UV and the UVA and all those other types of filtering aspects and specs for the glasses, just to help protect your eyes from harmful rays of light. You want impact resistance as well. Now let's go ahead and talk about signaling devices. When you're walking around in the community, in the world, on an everyday basis, does any of the signaling devices are included in the stuff that you carry on your person? And it could be something really simple. Though we're not talking about carrying a box of flares in your back pocket or in a backpack. We're talking about like something super simple, like a little whistle. Maybe at the very most, maybe a signal mirror that could be in a pocket organizer. Maybe it could just be your brightly colored bandana that you already carry anyways. Or it could be just your light source. Maybe you have a little flashlight and you could blink it or, create some attention that way. So you probably already have that capability if you already carry some of the basic types of gear for signaling. And then the next would be first aid and trauma items. Now, a lot of people carry first aid and trauma. Some people, like myself, carry Band-Aids and stuff in the wallet. I carry a very minimalized wallet, so I'm really limited. And then I try to carry maybe a very, very compact, super basic trauma kit, which could be something as simple as a very low-key, maybe it's a rat's tourniquet or any other type of tourniquet that you prefer. Maybe some kind of trauma bandage, a compression bandage, if you will. That would be awesome. And it doesn't have to be much more than just that. Just something to take care of immediate blood trauma or a body trauma or a loss of control of the part of the body to control the loss of blood. So you want to have trauma stuff if possible. So do you have that in this step one? This is a pretty large step, as all these steps are going to be in these 5 steps. So it's a large picture view. It's a pullback, from the traditional thing that is, you need to have this, and this. No, this is all for you to come up with your own criteria and your own standards. And so I'm just giving you some parameters to think about. So Band-Aids, tourniquets, trauma bandages, pain medicines, could definitely be in some of your first aid kit. And it could be a very small, very, very small. Some of this could just actually fit in your pocket organizer or in maybe a secondary pocket like a cargo pocket. Now, the next thing is your keychain. And some people go really heavy, and some people don't want nothing but just their keys on their key ring. You can also consider maybe somewhere in the middle. Maybe having at least a few things on your key ring could be beneficial. I try to cut back a lot lately. I've taken about half the stuff off my keychain. My keychain originally was like a very large survival type of keychain, and it was so bulky and so just uncomfortable to even try to find a pocket to shove it in. And so now I just typically keep it's a basic whistle and a very small keychain light, maybe a very, very small folding blade that has a locking feature, maybe a small can opener and a little bit of paracord on a paracord fob. And that's typically it, maybe with the exception of a few safety pins. I like the stainless steel ones. That's just something that I've been trying to minimize, so, and I like those aviation mechanics key rings, those wire key ring type deals. They flex and they're very comfortable. So that's just something to consider. What do you have on your key ring and what kind of capabilities does it really offer? The next would be, do you need a bag to hold extra stuff that won't fit in your pockets? And so this could be your water bottle, your snacks, your phone, charger, other gear such as your tablets and laptops, and maybe rain gear, maps, navigation gear. So a lot of times you're not going to keep that in your pockets. It could be a small GPS, or maybe it's just maybe you just feel comfortable having a really small compass on you for whatever reason. Do you have that? Do you even carry it? It's kind of cool to think about it, but if you don't actually carry it, it's not really helpful. So there's that outline. So that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of step one. So I got some tips though to go with it. And so tips to maintain step one: priorities and consistency of carry. And these are some really just basic, but it needs to be reiterated because I get a lot of people trying to find that perfect setup of things to carry with them on a daily basis, and they fail because they don't sometimes really think about these tips. Tip number one: the lighter, the better. It's a lot easier to carry when things are not dragging you down. So, just consider that. Now, I'm not saying everything lighter is going to be better for you in terms of your purpose, but in terms of carry, lighter is just better because everything adds up over time. You have 3 or 4 things in a pocket and you take 1 ounce off of each of those items, you can feel a major difference. Tip number 2, size matters. Bulky gear gets left home. I know that's totally true for me. I used to carry a lot larger handgun. In fact, I carried a full-size combat handgun for concealed carry for a couple years when I first got my concealed carry. And it was totally uncomfortable. And I didn't even give myself the consideration that I should probably have looked into something smaller. I just figured the more bullets, the better. And let's go ahead and get a full-size combat weapon and just shove that in in my pants there and try to forget about it. But it dug into my side, it dug into my back and my kidney, and it is heavy, and it caused my pants to droop. I could never get it right. It was always moving and shifting, and God help us if I try to carry extra ammunition because the magazines were so large, and it was just a nightmare. I mean, I really felt like I needed to have suspenders. And some people would say, well, you didn't really wear a proper gun belt, and I wasn't. So that was another problem. But, even when I did get the gun belt and it was helping me a little bit, it was actually just still just too big. And I was printing too much, I believed. And so just remember, man, try to be really realistic. If all you can carry that gives you consistency is a pocket pistol, then just carry that. Tip number 3. Don't always rely on plastic credit and debit cards. This is very critical. And so always keep cash on hand because cash is king. Cash is always accepted, man. I don't think I've ever run into a situation that they said at a store, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't accept cash, but we accept the credit card." No. And so there will be times that there could be power outages and a lot of problems with credit cards, debit cards, prepaid cards, all kinds of cards that the reader or the system is down. And if you want to purchase goods, you have to have cash, or you may be in a very rural location like and there's a lot of places that don't even take credit cards, you know, because you got to remember there's actually a charge for these merchants to actually use it. So there's some people that are really small businesses that have just decided it's not worth the 3, 4, even 5% overhead charge to accept this form of payment. So they don't accept it. So just remember that when you go out, to have at least a little bit of emergency cash. Now, tip number 4, adapt or adopt your force continuum. So in this this matter of discussion, let's just talk about adopting it here. Adopting a force continuum for self-defense situations. And this could be as simple as just having a layered defense. Instead of just going right to a deadly weapon, like just pulling out a gun when you feel threatened and shooting someone, which would be horrible unless you really had a real reason to do so, unless you were justified. But if you could get away with pulling out pepper spray and threatening with the pepper spray, that might actually bring the situation and de-escalate. Or maybe you have to actually pepper spray them. That might end it right there. In most cases, it probably would. And if that doesn't, maybe you have a collapsible baton, and that'll allow you to get away from the situation instead of having to draw your gun. And so having 1 or 2 in-betweens or a continuum before you go to deadly force is going to look good in the court of law, and it'll make you feel a lot better that you didn't actually kill someone or shoot someone because you didn't take the precaution or you didn't take the advice to layer your defenses. So don't force yourself to actually go to deadly force. So that's a big one right there. Number 5. Tip 5 is to be alert of your environment. The more you notice, the more information you will have to overcome challenges and threats. Just being aware of your environment is a really big thing. Taking note of people's body language, what's normal and what's not normal in an environment. It's a little bit more difficult when you go to a new place, because you don't know what is, acceptable and what's common. Especially for me, when I go to a new restaurant, I don't know if the noise level is like normally that loud, or is there something wrong? Is there a fight in the back of the kitchen, or is it getting rowdy at the bar, or is that just normally how it is? So it's kind of good to take a pulse of an area before you get too far into it. And the last tip here is number 6. Tip 6 is select clothing that adapts to your gear, that supports it in daily carry. As we talked about before, having appropriate clothing with enough pockets, enough closures, having a proper belt in particular is a really big one for us guys in particular, or even females if you wear, pants. But a gun belt, a thick belt, especially if you're concealed carrying and you have a lot of gear on your belt, is going to be awesome. Sometimes you may even want suspenders to help distribute the load. Overall, though, clothing and the type of clothing and the way that you carry your gear can really make the difference of carrying it or not carrying it. And so this is the conclusion of step 1 and the tips. Hopefully this was enjoyable. Stay tuned to step number 2 of practical preparedness, 5 steps to stay alive and thrive. Thanks for joining me here at the Art of Prepping. If you haven't checked out my ebook, it is on Amazon in the Kindle format, The Art of Prepping, a Preparedness Review. Thank you for your support. I'll catch you soon.